Fallout is a seminal role-playing game released in 1997 for PC and Mac OS. The first game began production in 1994 as a B-tier project, initially being created by programmer Tim Kaine at Interplay Entertainment. For 6 months, Kaine programmed the basics of the Fallout game engine, working alone with no budget and no concrete plan. Yet as time went on, Fallout would begin to slowly conceptualize during the after hours at the Interplay office. You see, while most of the staff went home, stray employees bribed by pizza would be able to join Kaine in the conference room just to talk Fallout. This established a distinct team within Interplay, an adolescent team highly passionate about this rogue project free from middle management. A special game that ignited a series with some of the most interesting fiction ever put to screen, as well as some of the most horrifying concepts ever conceived. Inspired by the likes of The Road, A Boy and His Dog, and the Mad Max franchise, Fallout is cited as being one of the games that rekindled consumer interest in computer role-playing games. Its noticeably strong writing and distinct tone resonated with an audience hungry for something beyond fantasy or sci-fi. Transforming the latter and creating a horror-infused, retro-futuristic, post-apocalyptic setting, Fallout was jarring in comparison to its contemporaries, utilizing horror in a way never seen within a Western CRPG. It was a mysterious game, with limited marketing. The only thing going for it was its striking cover art that dared players to open the box and see what was inside. The box itself being its own experience, as if you had just unearthed a relic from the wasteland. When loaded into Fallout, you'll be met with interesting yet obtuse game mechanics. Choice and consequence was one of the most favored aspects seen within Fallout. As the Vault Dweller, you are sent on a mission to obtain a water chip for your vault, with no real idea of what awaits you beyond the steel door. In the wasteland, you come across various individuals, settlements, and factions that are in need of assistance. It is up to you as the player to decide the fate of these wastelanders, but it is never made clear which choice is the right choice. The world of Fallout is gray and hopeless. Even if you play your cards right, humanity will inevitably revert back to its worst form. Classic Fallout is no walk in the park, for it is as much as a horror game as it is an RPG. Like many horror games, Fallout is brutal. You are thrown into a world with hardly any direction. Resources are scarce, and even the most generic enemy will sap your HP while you keep missing like a blindfolded sloth equipped with a butter knife. This, paired with the extreme sense of urgency, makes Fallout not for the faint of heart, for you only have a select number of days before your vault perishes, or meets a fate worse than death, by the hands of a frightful being. The Master is one of the most horrifying aspects of Fallout. What once was a simple wasteland doctor and philosopher is now a heavily evolved consciousness, hell-bent on transforming humanity into mutants. His mangled nature, appalling voice, and sporadic attitude makes for a compelling monster in what is ostensibly a horror story.
The unity will bring about the Master race.
Master!
One able to survive, or even
Thrive.
in the wasteland. As long as there are differences, we will
Tear ourselves apart!
fighting each other. We need one race,
Race!
one goal,
Goal!
one people to move forward to our destiny.
Depending on your choice, when all is said and done, the protagonist heads home, only to be met with another conflict. In true horror game fashion, the ending of Fallout is grim. After everything you've endured, you are exiled from the vault you saved, never to return. Your time in the wasteland shaped your character in an unforeseen way. The sheltered nature of vault life is a delicate ecosystem, one the Overseer seeks to preserve, but your mere existence in the vault threatens the Overseer's experiment.
Oh my God, bro.
Oh, hell no.
Peter.
A year later, we would see the release of Fallout 2, developed by Black Isle Studios, a division of Interplay made up of key staff who worked on the original Fallout. In many ways, Fallout 2 is the textbook definition of a perfect sequel, expanding upon its predecessor by leaps and bounds. However, the tone becomes significantly more zany,
Where is your power armor?
establishing the juxtaposition we see in Fallout today, a cold, grim, cruel world with a real dark sense of humor. In many ways, this is what the Fallout series is, a dark comedy. Despite this, however, Fallout 2 still has its fair share of horror stories. In fact, we get the most horrific story of all. There's a real air of nuclear anxiety that surrounds these games. From the ominous intro voiced by Ron Perlman, we're given an authentically haunting post-nuclear experience in a retro-future world. A world so different yet so familiar. As we come to learn more about the world in Fallout, we find two war-torn superpowers battling over Earth's last non-renewable resources. Communist China makes a desperate move to preserve its way of life, attacking America but also tipping the domino that would set the world on fire. Yet as the world stared into the eyes of nuclear catastrophe, Americans were not made to fear it, but to buy into it. Their fears and anxieties were made into products to be manufactured and sold, until the world as they knew it perished. Vault-Tec is the company employed by America to preserve the nation's finest. What was shown to the public was a safe way of living in the nuclear age: peace, freedom, and apple pie. However, in reality, these vaults were nothing more than company experiments to analyze human nature in controlled environments. For instance, Vault 13 was an experiment to analyze prolonged isolation. Vault 15 was a social experiment that inhabited residents of radically diverse ideologies in order to gain data on their interactions and potential failure. But the most horrifying vault seen within classic Fallout has to be Vault 12, an experiment made to study the effects of gradual radiation exposure. The vault door was designed to not seal correctly, so when the bombs dropped, the entire vault became irradiated, gradually turning the population into ghouls. The pre-war world of Fallout was a corporate hellscape that imitated freedom in America. There was no choice for the common man, for they had inadvertently traded their freedom for security, thus resulting in a nation full of lab rats. Fallout is a morbid curiosity that lets us experience a world permeated by nuclear darkness. We find tribes reminiscent of the Stone Age, echoes of that corporate hellscape I was just talking about, and monstrous creatures made of nightmares. This is all accentuated by the game's FMV horror atmosphere, which adds this uncanny feel to the games. Convincing enough to be real, but strange enough to elicit an unnerving feeling. There's something to be said about this era of computer games and just how ominous the vibes were, truly letting your imagination run wild as it tries to fill in the blanks technology couldn't quite handle. I mean, traversing the wasteland is already an unpredictable cesspool of terrifying experiences, so when the game highlights experiences like this...
Well, there's, something, but I never listened to those rumors. You really want to hear it, huh? Well, some say it's the Death Claw, but I don't know nothing about that.
Hold up.
The thought of what else you might experience in the wasteland can dishearten even the most brave adventurers. Yet it's this incredibly strong art design that makes for Fallout to be one of the most visually striking games of the 90s. It was a game unafraid to show the rampant violent nature of humanity in its next bloody chapter. What illustrates this perfectly is Fallout's most important aspect: the characters. In Fallout, you'll encounter very specific NPCs that don't just have a text box, but a fully animated face model with voice acting to accompany it. This was done by digitizing the clay face models and rendering them in various programs. A single in-game model was painstakingly created over the span of 8 weeks. Throughout these two games, 34 models are seen. All of them are detailed in a specific way that really contributes to the game's unique look. It's the cherry on top. While the main bulk of the experience is witnessing the unique writing, the art design helps accentuate the many shades of humanity you'll come across in your adventures. The last thing I'd like to highlight about Fallout is the game's desolate soundscape, composed by storied musician Mark Morgan. The soundtrack utilizes the echoes of the old world in these melancholic pieces. The use of distant sirens, grinding metal, dripping water, military drums, and Morse code truly exemplify the sins of mankind. All of these sounds come together to form an audio spectacle that unnerves the soul to its core. It's almost as if you can hear the dread and anxiety of the Great War, the emotions of humanity as it swiftly perishes. Tim Kaine was adamant about the ambient nature of Fallout's soundtrack, not something to be listened to, but something to be heard, the soundtrack of a war-torn world. In many ways, the music of the games are what makes the tone of classic Fallout so dark in comparison to the later entries. Yet as you explore more of the soundtrack, the fear of nuclear tension subsides, and you begin to hear a new tribal sound find its voice, subtly reminding the player that this is an era of humanity that will never quite recover. It is for this and many other reasons that the classic Fallout games are one of the most horrific games of the 90s. Fallout expertly uses its dark humor to hide the harrowing nature of its subject matter. At every turn, Fallout encourages the player to look intently at their own actions and reflect them upon the world, a world that continues to tear itself apart long after everything ended. Though the beat-to-beat gameplay leaves a lot to be desired, classic Fallout will always remain a masterclass in writing as well as art design. Here's to hoping that we'll get another small-scale isometric Fallout someday in the future. Don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but thank you for watching my video. If you like what you saw today, please consider leaving a tip over at patreon.com/Lando64. I'll see you all in the next video.